Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace and love. It's your brother Amir Ariel Al Nasir Marante Bey, live from the We Are More's channel. This is MSTA Study Group 19B. Today, I will want to speak specifically on the fatwa that was worked upon by Sati Majid against Timothy Drew. This fatwa was brought to my understanding recently, and I had the opportunity to dive into it and analyze it thoroughly. I analyzed the whole context of the writings and what was presented. There was a bunch of sheikhs who had signed it off. My personal opinion towards this fatwa that was written is my personal opinion. And I want to say, if a man dedicated his life to uplift his fellow brothers and sisters, then he is to be honored as such liberator of his people. Correct? If I'm wrong, please correct me. There have been many who've been called upon, but they have refused it because the sacrifice was too much for them. The burden was heavy on them. But now those which have lacked this sacrifice and have fallen to the pen of scholars, they've been proven against the feather of justice. Now walk with me. Islam, peace and love, my brothers and sisters, walk with me. Therefore, they have no position in the celestial house of our Father, nor do they have a position in the reformation of our house, Islam. But man's attempt to circumscribe the evolution of the Almighty, that is not going to be accepted. You see, man needs to understand that each person has their own destiny in life. And it is your responsibility to be at one with your destiny and be happy. If a brother brings a body of people from utter darkness into marvelous light, what do we call him? Brothers and sisters, what do we call him? You see, these are things that came to my mind as I started reading the fatwa that was written. You understand? Dishonor and in disgrace, and cursed is he who curses when the only source he has is a pen. Analyze this thoroughly, brothers and sisters. Does sincerity dwell within this individual's heart? Analyze that. Now, we need to understand this individual by the name of Sati Majid, at that, which means noble and glorious. He's preaching about tolerance and the loving nature of Islam. But he came into the Americas where Prophet Noble Drew Ali was already establishing his movement and doing his job as his calling, as a messenger, as a prophet. Of course, he's going to meet stubborn and fierce resistance, because Sati Majid was trying to tell people that the teachings that Noble Drew Ali was presenting to the people was not Islam. At no moment did Prophet Noble Drew Ali quote any verse of the Quran. At no moment did he quote anything that has to do with the book of the Quran itself. He did not plagiarize anything. He compiled information and brought forth for us a divinely prepared book. It was prepared. He didn't write it. He's not acting as if something that he's not. But we have to analyze, isn't Allah himself enough? Why do we need acceptance of anyone in order to convey our message unless there is a purpose behind the acceptance of such to convey your message? Walk with me. Sati Majid said that by the virtue and grace of Allah and the acceptance of Uncle Sam, he's talking about with the grace of Allah, the virtue and the grace of Allah, and the acceptance of Uncle Sam. Meaning that the United States federal government was going to assist him in his mission because he was accepted by Uncle Sam to go forward with his dream that he was trying to establish in the Americas, but he met fierce and stubborn resistance. So he needed assistance from the federal government to help him. But now that he has the acceptance of Uncle Sam, he goes on to state that no one could change my mind from pursuing my dream. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand that this brother Sati Majid is a brother who had a dream to be the one to introduce Islam into the Americas, to be the face of Islam in the Americas. But it happened to be that he met a stubborn and fierce resistance because the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was already here, was already establishing the Moorish Science Temple of America. In the time frame that all of this happened, well, before that, he kept on saying that he felt like his soul would not rest until he showed people the true Islam. Walk with me. These were his claims. While at the same time, many of his followers were active members of the UNIA. This fatwa he's specifying against the NOI and the MSTA. But then he's saying that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was moving a proto-Islamic Masonic type of movement, which that does not coincide with what the Prophet Noble Drew Ali was teaching. He was not teaching Masonry, brothers and sisters. Let's be honest. If you've read the documents and from the Moorish literature, we understand that there was a point where there were splinter groups that broke off from the original body. And I will go on to another video and explain that in detail. But we have to understand that this fatwa that was presented and it was signed by these sheikhs has no value. We're talking about a man who literally was just backbiting, hating, jealous, slander. Like do not spy or backbite each other. Would one of you like to eat the flesh of his brother when dead? Huh? That's a question to ask yourself, beloved brothers and sisters, because the fatwa was presented to me. I've analyzed it thoroughly. And the fact that all those sheikhs signed that document in agreement shows a lack of investigation, a lack of understanding, deliberately not caring. This is called religious controversy. Religious controversy. And, you know, I'm going to read it. Religious controversy. Give me 1 second so I can find this. Religious controversy. Religious controversy. If you brothers and sisters have the opportunity to take a look at this book, Moorish literature, you know, brothers and sisters, I advise you to get this book. It has all the writings that the Prophet left us here, the majority of them. he's clearly stating that it is foolish to impart to ignorant. You see, ignorant at times doesn't necessarily have to be one who is unknowledgeable. A man can be ignorant in spirit, you understand, and have his pride and ego interfering with that he has nothing to do with. You see, when man comes out of himself, he is chasing a desire. And you know what? You know, all praise is due to Allah and honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, who brought forth the stubborn and fierce resistance. The resistance that did not allow to be infiltrated by this agent who was sent more than likely by the United States federal government to write that fatwa against the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Islam, this is my point of view towards the fatwa that was written against Timothy Drew, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And I want to tell you, brothers and sisters, do not allow yourself to fall to the pen of the scholars. Many have hindered thee and our people from entering the kingdom of heaven when they themselves have never entered. You see, there is no reason to alter the truth unless you have ill intentions. No man can circumscribe the everlasting, evolutionary aspects of Allah. With that, I leave you brothers with peace and love. Islam.